Charlie, great to see you again. I got one burning question on my mind. What the hell is going on with AI apps right now?
Yeah, it feels like a real gold rush at the moment, Josh. But the I think at the moment you're seeing a lot of app owners getting like shiny object syndrome. So they have a portfolio of apps that haven't been in AI. Now they're looking at, okay, there's an opportunity here to get huge growth off some of the numbers you're seeing with the popular AI apps that are out there. I don't know if you know the likes of. I just watched a podcast on this last week with Cal AI. So it's the one where you take a photo of the piece of food and it tells you the calories and everything on it. But I think those sort of stories and how much revenue can be made, it's making a lot of people want to launch apps in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Kali, obviously everyone's talking about it. They were featured on My First Million podcast. They were featured on TechCrunch. They're all over the place. I did some reverse engineering with a friend the other night to try and figure out actually how profitable they are. And we had some serious questions because the price point they're charging at is around $29.99 for the annual plan, and they're pushing the annual plan pretty hard. But we did some pretty basic calculations trying to figure out the cost of their CPIs based on their scale, and we were a little bit concerned because they're also competing in a very competitive category, not just because of the incumbents like MyFitnessPal, MacroFactor, and all those kind of things, but also all of the copycats. I mean, if you look up Cal AI or any variation of that spelling on the App Store right now, you're going to see about 10 Chinese copycats who
Yeah.
are making this thing faster, who are rolling updates out faster, and are probably working harder than the guys in the States. It's a really cool shiny object story, and they definitely made great money from it. But I wouldn't believe everything you kind of read. It's never like as good as it seems. But beyond that, the truth of the matter is there is a real opportunity here. I mean, I think it's 20% of total App Store revenue is now going to AI apps, which is some of the fastest, if not the fastest category growth we've ever seen in the app. Charlie, so obviously, there is this shiny object syndrome right now. My question to you is there still time to chase the gold rush, or are we a bit too late?
I think there's definitely still a chance. I mean, 20% of the revenue is going to these AI apps, like you were saying. And I see in the future where that's going to be all the revenue is going to AI apps, if not 80, 90% of the revenue. So I saw this post on LinkedIn the other day from a guy and he was kind of giving tips on how you can end up launching a new business. So he said, look at apps that are doing really well that don't have AI functionality in them. And what AI functionality can you add into it? I think especially now for consumers, you see them going online and they're nearly caught with if they see an AI title on an app, you're going to pick that over one that doesn't have the AI title just because you think there's that assumption that the functionality is going to be better with these ones. So because of that, they're like, okay, why would I not have one with AI versus without?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think there's almost four pillars people can really double down on to make these AI apps work. Because in an era when anyone can build stuff, thanks to these no-code tools and AI vibe coding, shall we say, what's your defensibility? And I think we can break this down to four key pillars. I'm not going to cover everything because I'm not that smart, but I've identified four in my day-to-day. First one is if you have deep industry or area expertise that other people won't have. For example, if you've been a fisherman for 20 years and you want to build like an app that has like AI fishing kind of mechanics that helps you figure out the best places to fish or whatever. If you know this area, this area better than anyone else, you're going to have deep industry knowledge for that. The second pillar also comes down to IP, which is, are there like visuals or characters, themes and stories that you can help users develop an emotional attachment to? One example I'd point to here is an app called Tolan. All it is an AI wrapper, but it gives you this super cute cartoon figure that you choose that becomes your confidant, it becomes your cooking companion, it becomes your therapist, everything. And the reason why it's grown so quickly, they just raised a $10 million seed round, for example, is because of this emotional engagement with this IP. They're creating an identity here. And it's very, very strong. Yeah. Not easy to do. They've done it very well. They've got very high production value. If you look at their animations and the quality of their characters, it's very high. But that's the second pillar. The third pillar we're seeing work is also social. A lot of AI experiences are single player. If me or you jump onto ChatGPT and look up, hey, what are the top 10 trends in consumer apps? That's a single player experience. But if you can bring in social, other people involved, even better if it's your friends, people have more of a reason to stick around and also becomes a bit of a moat. And I think the fourth area, and this is one area where I'm seeing people make a lot of money, is using AI tooling to enhance self-expression of the user. And especially in design apps, photography apps, editing apps, or music apps, anything that kind of becomes this appendage to the creative individual and helps them express themselves better, we're seeing it make a lot of money. But again, this is a really competitive niche, and it's not easy to kind of get your foot in the door there. I think, go on.
Yeah. I think with those sort of apps, so if you see that, let's say the creative or something that has AI and it's doing really well, you guys as a buyer over at Blue Throne, obviously we haven't been in this AI generation for a long time. It's quite new in terms of these apps and they're seeing amazing results. But how is it for you in terms of trying to value something like that if it is AI and it's having this spike in the first couple of months?
It's hard. It's really hard because you don't have a lot of past data to go on, and it very
Yeah,
feels, when you just launch a boat from a dock and it's sliding down that ramp, and as it hits the water, it's like shaking, and you're not sure if it's going to stay upright or not.
yeah,
Right now, it feels like we're still shaking, and you're not sure what's going to stay upright and what's going to sink. So it's hard. You don't have a lot of historical data. You don't know how the categories perform. So it's a risky play, and it's a conversation we have with our internal investment committee a lot. Like,
yeah.
do we want to play on this risk, or do we want to wait for the dust to settle a little bit? Yeah, if anyone is listening and has some good answers on that, on how you develop kind of like reliability and valuing AI apps, I'd love to hear from you. That's a very interesting conversation.
I th yeah. I think there's so many like factors that are going on with that, you know what I mean? With AI, if somebody launches an app and it's in one of these categories where they haven't had AI before and it's doing well, you kind of think, okay, could the AI technology get better? That it's going to improve on this? So this app, there might be a competitor that comes in and does it better, so this app kind of tanks then after a few months. As well as that, then is it more with this AI functionality, is it just creating a bit of a trend, but then it won't be as popular after a lot of users churn and in a few months then but you guys have bought it, but then you're sitting on something where it doesn't have the projected cash flow that you thought while it's in that euphoria moment and doing super well after the initial launch. So it makes it tricky.
Yeah, and here's one problem that this euphoria is creating. The one problem is all of the AI apps are charging you annual subscriptions. So when I go in and analyze the AI app, because it has not been out for a year, I do not know what the resubscriber rate is. 90% of your users might churn after a year, but you're trying to sell the app after 6 months. This puts the buyer in a really difficult position of how do I value this cohort of payers because I've got no idea what their resubscriber rate is going to be,
Yeah,
which kind of leads me on to a top tip if you're trying to sell an AI app. Start pushing your monthly or your weekly subscriptions so you can collect data on your resubscriber rate because that's going to make it a lot easier to sell the app if that's your plan.
for sure. Yeah. We would kind of, in two things we would have for that as a brokerage. So we would keep a lot of data in-house on apps that we would value. And let's say they're in certain categories, you would look at, okay, we would try to kind of break it down into apples to apples comparison in the category. So if it's health and fitness, for example, year one retention rates and what that looks like, and then looking at the monthly rates on those health and fitness apps as well. But if you have an AI app that's in health and fitness, look at what their monthly is because you can't see what the annual is and try to extrapolate off of that then what would the annual look like benchmarked against these other apps. That's kind of it's not a perfect comparison, but how we try to do it based on not having the annual retention data. But then as well, there's somebody told me about this with Revenue Cat. I didn't actually know it, but you can see how many of the users have canceled the annual subscription already. So it will give you insight to, okay, how many people are potentially going to renew. But yeah, two sort of tips I would give there. You could potentially get it valued and see what that looks like, and then look on Revenue Cat as well if you're using it.
Charlie, we're seeing all kinds of AI apps blow up right now. Quick question for you. What is the weirdest but profitable AI app you've seen so far?
I'm not actually sure how much profit this was doing, but I saw one the other day where it was you could get two people and you can check what your baby would look like. You and your partner, you'd be able to see what does the future look like. So yeah, I don't know what that one would look like for you, Josh, if you want to try it out or not.
I think my girlfriend might want me to try that out, but I think I saw that advertised to me on Instagram last week. But I think the one I've seen that was pretty weird and definitely was profitable. I spoke to the team. It was basically an AI kissing app that takes two pictures of people and generates a video of what they would look like kissing. A little bit kind of grotesque and potentially some legal troubles down the line there.
Yeah.
But they were definitely profitable, and it just goes to show that if you can ride that kind of hype wave and do something that is also quite social as well, similar to the app you mentioned, that there's actually money to be made out there.
Yeah, I think these ones kind of go back to our point, like how hot are these going to be in 6, 9 months? Is it just something where a lot of people will do it for the first time, it trends up and then drops off a cliff after that?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in with a question to you here about how you're seeing AI apps performing against normal apps. What are you seeing over there?
So AI apps versus normal apps, there's definitely a lot of hype and a lot of buyers are telling us that they're interested in AI apps. In terms of on the kind of app owner side, they're definitely interested in them. Look, a lot of them want to launch them. A lot of the reasons people are coming to me now and saying I want to sell, especially if it's an indie developer or small dev team, They're like, we don't have the resources to potentially work on this new AI app we're looking at. So if they can sell a normal app, then it's interesting for them because they'll free up the time, the resources, and they can kind of plow that energy into a new app. The as well, the sort of tools you're seeing coming out, things like Cursor, Lovable, people can launch MVPs or do their coding much quicker. So because of that, they're like, traditionally a small dev team that would have been able to do 5, 6 apps, now maybe they can create 8 or 9 because of the tools and the productivity they're giving them.
Absolutely, and I think we're going to see categories become congested a lot faster than we have done in the past if everyone has the ability to build. Fun fact, I was actually reading in the Revenue Cat report that came out just a few weeks ago that most AI apps are seeing revenue per install above 63 cents after 60 days. And just as a point of context, this is matching health and fitness apps, which is famously one of the most profitable and revenue generating category of apps. Health and fitness apps are also seeing about 63 cents of revenue per install after 60 days. So that is almost double the overall median, which is about 31 cents across normal apps, with what they're seeing revenue per install after 60 days, which is very interesting. Charlie, before we wrap this up, any other kind of concluding comments or questions about AI apps and what you're seeing?
I think with them, look, it's a super interesting time. I think there's never been a better time to build if you are a developer in terms of the speed of getting things to market. But I would say from a buyer's perspective, if you're looking at these, try to give it a bit more time and a few more months. And I think you touch on an important point. Get to the annual retention numbers, see what that looks like, and it gives you a bit more assurance then in carrying out an acquisition.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think if someone is interested to follow this up, they should definitely reach out to you to see that valuation report. I'm sure you've got a lot of interesting benchmark data in there. So I've seen it. I would definitely encourage listeners to go check that out. Drop Charlie a message. I'm sure he's happy to share it.
Cheers, Josh. Much appreciated. Great chat,
All
mate.
right, Charlie. Catch you